The Magic Thief, Chapter 10. The rocks I'd found were laid out on trays covered with faded blue velvet. The trays stacked 5 deep to the bottom of the chest, where I found a book covered with cracked leather and stamped with gold runes and an hourglass with wings at its sides. I'd seen the same hourglass before, carved into the stone floor by the gate leading to Heart's Ease, and on the patch on Nevri's robe. I set the book aside, then laid the trays around me on the floor and inspected the rocks. The first one was gray, flat, and rounded, a river stone about the size of my palm. When I touched its smooth surface, it felt warm and strangely welcoming. I closed my eyes, and a picture flashed into my mind of a tall, slender, gray-haired lady in a gray gown. She raised her hand, which held the gray flat stone, and then faded away. The next rock was a rough black lump with chunks of cloudy crystal embedded in it. I picked it up and saw a burly bearded man who reminded me of Nevery. He scowled at me, and I put the rock down on its bed of velvet. The next was a slim shard of bluish crystal. I touched it and caught a glimpse of a young girl with blonde hair and a quick, shy smile who turned and flitted away out of my vision. Sitting on the moldy carpet of the workroom, I examined every one of the stones. Some were empty, as if every drop of magic had been poured out of them like water. Some made the tips of my fingers tingle, and some gave a single warm throb and went still and quiet again, as if falling back to sleep. The last stone was wrapped in a scrap of yellow worm silk, tied up with a frayed ribbon. When I picked up the little package to unwrap it, it felt light, as if nothing was inside, though I could feel the smoothness of stone beneath the silk. Carefully, I untied the ribbon, and the stone rolled out of the cloth and into my palm. As it dropped into my hand, a cold wave of sickness rolled out from it, washing through me, making my stomach turn over and dark spots dance before my eyes. The stone shoved me away. Dropping it, I scrambled backward until I crouched in the doorway, shivering. It lay there on the floor. I gripped the door frame and caught my breath. From where I was, the stone looked like a polished gemstone, about the size of a baby's fist. I crept closer to see it better, kneeling to look over it, but not touching it. The stone was deep purple, like a black eye, but as I looked closer, I saw that it was covered with fractures that went right through it. Really, it was more cracks than stone. I'd have to tell Nevery about it. Leaving it on the floor, I put the other stones back into the chest, keeping the book out to show it to Nevery. As I was closing the lid of the chest, I caught out of the corner of my eye something moving in the room. I whirled around to look, thinking the bruise-colored stone had decided to attack me again. But it wasn't the stone. It was a cat. She sat just inside the doorway, looking at me with yellow-green eyes. Her face and tail were striped with dark gray and black, and the rest of her was white, as if somebody had held her by her tabby ears and tail and dipped her in bleach. She looked sleek and well-fed. The tip of her tail twitched. I knelt down beside her and gave her a scratch in the soft fur between her ears. She gave me a purr and rubbed her little face against my hand. "Do you want to come with me, miss?" I asked. I fetched the cracked leather book, which I put in my coat pocket, along with a strange melted metal machine, and headed to the window. The cat followed me up onto the windowsill, where I crouched, looking down. Outside, the rain had started, a chill downpour, a gray curtain across the courtyard. I jumped down, my boots squelching as I hit the ground, and the cat went primly down the vine. "Well done, lady," I said. "Do you want me to carry you so you don't get wet?" I bent down and picked her up, sheltering her under my coat. I ran across the courtyard, pelted by the rain, splashing through puddles. Near the storeroom door stood a huge wet pile of firewood. Bennett must have chopped it. I ran past that and into the storeroom. Dripping wet, I went up to the kitchen. Bennett was there, at the table, cutting up a chicken with a long knife. He paused as he came in. "He's looking for you," he said, pointing with the knife at the ceiling. I nodded and put the cat down. She sneezed and stalked away from me. Maybe she thought the rain was my fault. "Her name is Lady," I said. "She's very good at catching mice." Bennett grunted. "And he isn't happy." No, I wouldn't expect him to be. Slowly, I went up the stairs to the study. As I came in the door, Nevery looked up from a book, then stood up. He slammed the book down on the tabletop. I froze with my hand on the doorknob. I gave you an assignment, boy, he growled, to read the 5th chapter, and you disobeyed. No, I didn't, I said. Well, I hadn't, not really. Have you read this? He pointed at the red leather book, which was still sitting open on the table. No, I said. Never looked like mingled slow silver and tourmaline. You haven't read it. I took a deep breath. He wasn't going to like this. Nevery, I don't know how to read. The wizard stared at me, shook his head, muttered something under his breath. Then he asked, You've had no schooling at all? I stared back at him. I'd grown up in the twilight. He knew that. Where would I have had schooling? Nevery sat down again. Well then, boy, I don't have time to teach you to read. You'll have to go to the academicos. To school? Nevery lowered his eyebrows. Don't argue, boy. No, I wasn't going to argue. I was going to school.